So, Keith David. I'm a fan. Thank you. That's very kind. You know, some folks say I remind them of you. Yeah, I get the same with you. I don't see it, though. Me neither.
Alright, cleanup time. What do we got?
Ain't nothing like a funky beat.
Alright, we're done with the montage. Just in time for the montage of audio logs.
When the Vice King stopped being about protecting Sunnyvale, I knew it was time to get out of the game. I was hoping that Benjamin could keep the city locked down, but years passed, and it ended up being the same old shit. Only this time, the victims were the people in Saints Row. I thought the Vice Kings was a cautionary tale that I learned something from. That if I built a new street gang, I could control it, not make the same mistakes King did. I was so fucking naive.
Fucking seriously, so fucking cool.
I gotta admit, I didn't think much of the boss when they first joined the crew. I thought there was no way they were gonna make it through being canonized, let alone be any help taking over Stillwater. Hell, they didn't even talk back then. But after that shit with the Vice Kings, I knew we found ourselves one hell of a saint. There's nothing the boss can't do. Things ain't ever been easy for the Saints. First, we lost Lynn to the Rollers back in Stillwater. And then Julius tried blowing up the boss and the Saints fell apart. And after getting the crew back together, the Brotherhood had Carlos killed and... Aisha. Well, I lost her to the Ronin. And then fucking Philippe Loren tried taking me out, only to have Zinyak come in and snatch me from the Saints anyway. Like I said, shit's always been rough.
I knew early on what it was I let loose on Stillwater. The Playa was reckless and uncaring. Left a wake of bodies pointing right back at us. Think more of the city was destroyed than saved in the end. Sure, the Saints were taken over, but at what cost? I couldn't risk letting a sociopath run things, so I did what I had to do. Never thought the bastard would survive the explosion. I don't regret much. You make your choices, you live with them. But if I could take anything back, it would be the way things ended up with Angela. It was all fun and games for her. She wanted to be just like Benjamin. I shouldn't have let her get in so deep.
King never had the control he thought he did over the Vice Kings. It was all me and Warren keeping things running. Well, mostly me. Warren's ego got just as big as Benjamin's in the end. He thought the two of us would rule the city. Guess he didn't know me like he thought he did.
I'm a creature of habit, of structure. which doesn't fit well with the Saints' MO. They have their way of doing things, and at times, I have no idea what they're thinking, or of their infatuation with those god-awful freckle bitches' hamburgers. But, when it comes down to it, they get things done. That's impressive, and I'm not easily impressed.
Warren, Tony, Alderman Hughes, I had them all wrapped around my finger. They would have died for me. Come to think of it, I guess they did.
When I heard the Saints were back in Stillwater, I figured it couldn't hurt to have a little more muscle on the Brotherhood side. 2080 was a fair split for a bunch of has-beens from the row. After all, we were the strongest crew in the city. What do we have to fear from them? If their leader wasn't such a greedy asshole, maybe things wouldn't have escalated like they did. After what the Saints did to my face, they had to expect a little payback. Carlos was an easy target and hurt their boss the most. But Jessica? That was going too far. Then Vogel rips off my shipment after letting my crew get killed. And I wasn't about to let the Brotherhood go down because of some prick in a suit. I thought I had that Saint dead to rights. I mean, they couldn't kill me in my own home. What chance did they have to survive my trap? I had the perfect setup. Even used the truck that killed Jessica for a little poetic justice. But it didn't matter. I lost. Fucking Saints.
Aisha's death, it hit me really hard. I thought I'd made peace with it, but Zinyak's fucking simulated hell took its toll. You know, I know the whole point was that I'd never be able to save her, but that shit would never stop me from trying. The boss didn't show up to help. I don't know how much longer I could have kept it together.
Okay, well then, I'd say welcome back to Saints Row 4, but you've been watching it. But now, we are done with most of the cleanup. That said, there's actually a few audio logs that we can't get just yet, though we will be able to get them soon. For the time being, though, here's the stats we've got. Including, at some points, clusters. Yep, we've got all of them. All stores, all flashpoints, just 3 more audio logs that we have yet to find. Because there's one character we haven't really met. I mean, we've met them, but we've not met them the second time. So, that's all the cleanup we need to do for now. You might be wondering, why is this episode another half-hour long? Well, that's because we've got that backstory to do. Don't pay attention to the Christmas text adventures or letters to Santa, that's not relevant yet. So yeah, we can take a look at the audio logs and listen to them again if you really want to, but we don't need to. It does not, however, show you like question marks for any that you haven't found yet. Anyway though, this is a bit of backstory for our good old enemy Zinyak. If you want to get more information on him, we've got the whole thing here in text form. So this is gonna be just a half hour of you reading text logs and me going, yes, Zinyak, I see. Admittedly, I do feel like if they weren't going to actually put this in the story, if they weren't going to cutscene this out, this is an entertaining enough way to go about things. I do also appreciate that most of these questions do have wrong answers, and Zinyak will just yell at you if you choose the wrong one. But yeah, they did not wind up, like, giving anybody in the Zin to bounce off of Zinyak. He is the only named character that we've seen with any kind of significant speaking role. The others just kind of roar or make other noises, so... Yeah, we've only had Zinyak to talk to, well, us. Or I guess we've been the only ones there to talk to him, rather. Oh, I didn't actually want to answer that correctly just yet. But yeah, I feel like I definitely would have preferred a few more enemies throughout the game in order to maybe flesh out Zinyak a little more. I guess maybe it would be difficult to fit the bakery in his backstory naturally. But yeah, if only. If only Zinyak had just got into baking instead and just stayed in it. Earth would still be here, but alas. The written word, so... Yep, now we're getting to school age. Again, I will say, while there are options I feel like I would have preferred to fit Zinyak's backstory in, the text log is interesting enough. I feel like it's relatively funny. It was nice just a calm little bit to... nice calm little side activity to learn more about our villain, but I just really wish he had more to bounce off of in the game. Because that is definitely the thing that was in the other games that I wish was in this one, you know? As just the gang wars that were in those. I think factions were a pretty defining part of the Saints Row games that I do think they should have kept. I feel in a similar way to feel about this a similar way as I do to, like, the Paper Mario games, in which, like, I kinda get why they drifted away from the format, cause you'd think having that format would make it kind of repetitive. Like, those games have the kind of chapter-based thing where it's distinctly like, Chapter 1, you go to a location, you meet some characters, you fight a boss, and then Chapter 2, different locations, different characters, different boss, so I can see how maybe you might mistake that for being like, if you do this for a bunch of games in a row, maybe it'll get old, but I feel like the format isn't really a problem if you make the actual mechanics of it interesting. Also, God, I love this bit so much. Yeah, he just really happened to like Earth books. Can also get his opinions on various authors. Big fan of Dr. Seuss, just doesn't put him in first place. I mean, hey, you gave just a pretty good variety of summaries there. And he agrees with pre-Epiphany Scrooge. Pfft. Charlatan. See, this is how you know Zinyak's evil. Doesn't like Dickens just because he's like, oh, Scrooge was supposed to be good in the beginning. Pfft, shut up, nerd. Anyway, he's a big fan of Jane Austen. Right, yeah, about format. I feel like formats do have a lot more to give than I think people sometimes give them credit for, because, you know, with Paper Mario, I really like the chapter structure. I think it gives you just a bunch of cool little short stories that you get for the entire game that kind of all thread together for the larger arc, be it saving Peach from Bowser or unlocking a really big door. You know, it is kind of sad to see that they're not really trying to do that anymore. And I feel like that is definitely missing a little something for not having those chapters. And same thing for Saints Row 4, like, maybe you could say that, like, if they just kept doing 3 gangs over and over again, maybe you'd get tired, but I feel like the only way it would get tired is if you never did anything cool with the individual groups, and they'd never hit a game where I got tired of the groups. I happen to like all of the different factions. Even if, like, each individual faction wasn't my favorite, and... Sorry, sometimes Zinniac's reactions do just hit me upside the head. But yeah, even if I wasn't the biggest fan of, like, the Rollers, for example, the fact that they're there is important. I think cities being split off into different territory can really just... there are multiple ways that can be interesting. And I think the third also did a pretty cool thing by having all three factions kind of working together. Like I've said before, that Morningstar on its own is a little boring, and I think them being kind of the leader faction made them a little dull. I think just the way the game is formatted, Morningstar, despite being the head at the start, is the one that winds up being the least interesting, just because of everything that happens with it. Its leader dies halfway through, and then one of the only people originally part of that faction joins you, and also her sister's dead, so like, it's pretty much just Killbane running the gang at that point, so really it's just luchadors wearing red. Well, no, it's not. They have very different builds from the people in Morningstar, but I digress. I still feel like having the teamwork one definitely wound up being pretty interesting. I think on my replay, I definitely appreciated it a lot more. Again, giving it more thought than just, I think Morningstar is kind of boring. But kind of the weave of that game was very interesting. You should have answered C, all of the above, come on. He had to do both. But yeah, I feel like that game being a little less open, they were able to do something a little more interesting with its format. Again, I understand that the first two games, they were unable to kind of have the gangs react to one another due to the fact that you could just play through one at a time, and then it just wouldn't exist anymore by the time you got to the other two. You know, that has its problems. Like I said, if you're paying a bit too much attention, you can kind of figure out that things might happen to certain characters based on how much they appear. But yeah, I feel like they had more that they could have done with the three factions thing. I think they could have done something similar to 3, where there's just like sections of the game where you know, have a certain number of each type of mission to do, so that they're able to react to each other in certain ways, like maybe Act 1 just ends with one gang screwing over another or something like that, which is something you could do, because if you can only play, like, the first third of each gang, then I think if you were smart about it, you'd be able to make interesting happenings between the gangs, and have them kind of be involved with one another a little more. But, I don't know, I think it has more potential than they may have thought it did. But yeah, back to Zinniac, though. I mean, can you really say back to Zinniac? He's been on screen this entire time, recounting the story through text. Though, I do kind of wish it was voiced. now that I say it, I do kind of wish this was voiced. But yeah, anyway. But back to Zinniac, though. I've said before that I think he's my favorite, like, overarching villain of Saints Row. Though I guess in fairness, that's not really that difficult. Because this is a series where the main villain isn't always obvious. In the first game, it's because he's hidden for the whole thing, which makes sense for the character. He was a politician who just wanted everybody to fight each other so that he could come out on top. So the fact that he was hidden makes sense. And then the third game, it's not really obvious because it's just weird game of musical chairs, which is kind of interesting in its own right. But I also feel like Killbane is the most interesting of the last villains you get. But also there is no ending where his final fight is particularly interesting. Either he escapes or presumably dives off screen, or, well, he has to, the Earth explodes. Or you just kill him in a very underwhelming fight after getting to the airport. It's, not particularly interesting for him. But yeah, the other two weren't particularly interesting. Kia's the least interesting of all. She was just kind of annoying. And, I don't really have much to say about her, I think that's the thing. Like, she does the whole, like, oh, you're so evil thing, but also I am going to do this terrible bit of terrorism, kill your people, and then blame everything on you. Look at me, I'm so great. Sure, yeah, whatever. But she's just not terribly interesting otherwise. Well, obviously he didn't do this. Anyway, though, right, but yeah, anyway, Kia, I just didn't care for her that much. And then Cyrus is in a very similar boat of, yeah, he's just military, and he's just kind of annoying. Just a real stick in the mud, but I guess, at the very least, he does have the coolest fight out of everybody. Now that I think about it, yeah, obviously it's in the ending that wasn't canon to what we did, the main game, but you do get to shoot down his, I think it was a jet, or a VTOL. It was some aircraft, you know, on an exploding aircraft carrier. It was very rad, I will give him that. Out of everything, he had the closest thing to an actual fight. Cause in Kia's case, you just throw flashbangs at her, or fart jars at her in my case, and then just shoot her, and that's it. It was very underwhelming, and again, Killbane's my favorite personality-wise, but good god. He gets nothing for his fights. Oh, right. Sorry, I had to take a moment to think of, what was the point I was making here? Oh, right, yeah, overarching villains. Yeah, the only competition Zinyak has is Dane Vogel, who, in fairness, I feel like is actually genuinely a really difficult call. I think the main thing that Zinyak has is just having a game full of getting to interact with him. Like, Dane takes a very similar role to, oh god, I've forgotten his name. Idiot Who Exploded. Yeah, Idiot Who Exploded is, I'll say it as many times as I want. Yeah, it takes a very similar role to him, where he wants everybody to fight against each other. But you do get to see him more and kind of interact, and it is really neat that you can actually see him fail sometimes. I think that's pretty great. Like, he has this whole playing the gangs against each other thing, but at the same time, if anybody wants to fight him, he's not good at that. Like, Marrow almost had him. If he just felt like killing him instead of making a deal, he could have just done that. It was before Dane was able to get Misako in as quickly, so, like, he had the clearest shot, but yeah, no, Dane Vogel's great for just being an absolute rat. I miss that guy. But yeah, I think that, he's very similar to the whole setup in the first game, just there is more of him, therefore you kind of get more of a feel for his character, and yeah, they did a great job with Dane. Love every aspect of him in that story, up to including the fact that he's not an actual final boss. The finale is getting to him, but, you know, you actually just shoot him once and he's gone. Actually, no, I think you did have to shoot him a few times, but either way, he's not really he's not a threat. The other guys in the room are more of a threat. But yeah, I think just the fact that Zinyak has a very fun dynamic with the Saints, of just, you never really know how he's going to interact with us. I think that makes him very interesting. It's just, sometimes he just tries to be very standard, oh, I'm so imposing, I could kill you with a thought, I rule this domain, ha ha ha. But then other times, the extent of his evil is, I'm going to ruin your fanfic. I'm going to try to kill you through ruining Matt's fanfic. I love how petty he can be, and that's so good. Genuinely, just, I wish he was here even more than he already is. The ellipses do so much work in both of those statements. But yeah, I wish there were just more ways that he could just be incredibly petty about things. And he is responsible for just one of the best moments in this series. When the big evil thing he does is he just interrupts you singing with Pierce to just go over the top singing Just a Friend wrong. And the boss and Pierce just get so mad at him. I probably shouldn't harp on that too much, because, like, what is there to explain about that moment other than just, I find it funny. But no, genuinely, just, the fact that he can be so much, I think, is what puts him over Dane, is just, Dane is great for being just a terrible little weasel of a man, but I love Zinyak's pettiness. He doesn't just have to beat you up to ruin your day, he's got more ideas than just that. But yeah, no, I just wish he had more characters to interact with. Unfortunately, that Zinfob guy he mentioned a while back is very dead by this point. But I do wish that Zinyak had more people to interact with who may have ideas of their own on how to run an empire. Or maybe just like ghosts of old civilizations are trying to make a comeback, but they're not necessarily on your side. I don't know. Just whatever. I do have to wonder how much more time this game would have needed in the oven to really get exactly what I might want out of it, because while I would still call this my favorite, there are definitely aspects of it where it's like, knowing this is the final proper Saints Row game before the reboot, as much as I do love this as a send-off, there are parts of it I wish were just more. I do wish there was a bit more of a solid set of story missions. The ones we get are fine, but yeah, there's not quite enough of them, and again, I just like more villains. Give me more antagonists to have to bounce off of. Both the Saints and Zinyak. Yeah, not really the best reading. Could be better. But yeah, now we're getting a bit of information on this Zinjai person, and we haven't seen anybody named Zinjai. So clearly they're in no position to appear in the story. You know, Zinyak has a whole second in command, and yet we haven't seen him once. Oh, well that's nice. You know, it's really weird. I don't even think he's mentioned Zinjai at any point. Well, we already know what the wrong answer is, cause... yeah, as much as he thinks he's better than us, he does like our culture. He's not gonna eradicate the culture that created Jane Austen, cause, you know, she's his favorite author. He's a big fan. Zinyak discovers that people don't like it when you just do genocides. Yeah, not fans. Alright, well, we are getting towards the end, which means we're almost to present date. In fact, this is the last one coming up, isn't it? So we can probably guess, even before we see the options, what his defining moment is. But yeah, like I've been saying, I guess a lot of the information we've given would be a little awkward to introduce, so I think no matter what, the backstory, text logs would have been needed. Yeah, and I feel like you can just guess what it is. You know what the right answer is. It's the museum. Petting zoo. Oh, well, good to know that was on the list. I mean, I think you should have gone for the petting zoo. Fewer planets would have needed to explode if you had done that. But yes, we're finally getting to the point where he made the simulation. Which, you know, despite how much we've been destroying it, and he's clearly just been letting us destroy it, it is his pride and joy. Nerd. We also know the answer to this question, which, hey, means that I can easily just find the right answer, well, the wrong answers first and then the right answer, without having to accidentally choose the right thing and then have to cut a little. I mean, it could make them lazier. Well, too bad. So yeah, now we get a bit of psychology around the simulation. Why it exists, and what he's hoping to do with it, though. In fairness, you could probably guess a lot of it. So, obviously this is the wrong one. And even about counting chickens, not till they get to the other side. You gotta start experimenting first, gotta make sure it works. So yes, this is the reason we haven't seen Zinjai. Cause, as it turns out, despite being second in command, that did not protect him from being put in the simulation himself, so... yeah, he's surely been psyche shattered by this point. And that's why we don't get to see Zinyak and Zinjai interact, because Zinjai has probably suffered ego death. He's in no position to be in cutscenes for most of this game. Well, that all seems like a great plan. Oh, also, a few of the questions in this whole thing do have multiple answers. This is one of them. You can answer whatever, and you don't get anything particularly unique for it. Cause yeah, he doesn't know either. Alright, well, the only way Zinyak can enjoy life is by completely obliterating the minds and souls of everybody he's already conquered. Yeah, he just really likes doing this. I feel like this is definitely worthwhile to get into overall. Like, the rest of this is vaguely interesting, but, I think definitely getting to see just how excited Zinyak gets about the simulation really kind of puts his whole character into perspective. And why he can be so petty at times. Because, you know, he doesn't just want to break your body, he wants to break your spirit, and you know, sometimes you don't have to be serious about that. Sometimes you can get a little silly with it. Who knows? Maybe singing Just a Friend very badly was what it could have finally taken to defeat the boss. Maybe that would have done it. It didn't, but you never know until you try. But yeah, I feel like they should have implemented some of this so that, his entire backstory wasn't relegated to just side content that you might not necessarily see, because I feel like his mentality is kind of an important aspect of his character that you could extremely easily miss out on. And I did, because I don't think I ever came to this computer in my first playthrough. I don't think I ever did the text log myself, back when I first played. I still liked Zinyak, but, I did not actually see, like, half of his character in this game, because I never played this. I would read it sometime later and be like, oh, that's neat. And yeah, now we've seen it properly, so, next time on Saints Row 4, we'll get back to Johnny. In fact, there's a decent chance you might see it, like, 10 minutes after this uploads. I don't know.